That was ugly. Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, we are going to recap San Francisco's collapse against the Seattle Seahawks. And after rewatching that game, it was worse than I thought, and you're going to agree. But first, win or lose, the 49ers report is here for you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for coverage every single day year-round on the Niners, largest independently run Niners channel right here on YouTube, north of 150,000 subscribers after our watch party yesterday. So lock us in. Our coverage will not disappoint. And if you haven't subscribed, I'm going to convince you with this show, which gets underway right now. And this is the San Francisco 49ers report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and after watching the tape, that Niners loss to the Seattle Seahawks just got 100 times worse than I thought. The 49ers in divisional games this year have had a lead with under 2 minutes to go against the Los Angeles Rams in Week 3. They lost 27-24. They had a lead with under 2 minutes to go against the Arizona Cardinals at home in Week 5. They lost 24-23. Yesterday against the Seahawks, at home once again, San Francisco was leading with under 2 minutes to go. They lose 20-17. The Niners have given up the second most points in the NFL with under 2 minutes to go in the National Football League this year. This defense has collapsed, but it's not just because of the defense. And I don't think that Nick Sorensen is good enough as a defensive coordinator. It's because this Niners offense, led by head coach Kyle Shanahan, designed by head coach Kyle Shanahan, called by head coach Kyle Shanahan, is not doing the Niners defense any favors, and this is a team that is led and built with its offense. And now, after suffering those three awful, heartbreaking, ugly divisional games, which ended up being heartbreaking defeats for San Francisco, look at where the Niners are going into Week 12 in this division with the fourth hardest schedule remaining among all teams in the league. San Francisco 5-5 with a 1-3 record inside this division. Last place, Cardinals coming off the bye week, 6-4. They will play the Seahawks 2 times in 3 weeks. That could go a long way in determining who wins this division. The Rams 5-5. They have now won 4 of their last 5 games. They are 2-1 in this division. The Cardinals are 2-0. The Seahawks, 1-2, but the Niners in last place because they have the most divisional losses inside this division. I was talking about this yesterday. I was thinking it after I hung up the headset following the watch party. I was sitting on my couch watching Sunday Night Football, trying to envision, trying to see a pathway with how San Francisco can make the playoffs, and I looked at a couple of different playoff models. The Niners have like a 25% chance to make the playoffs. This would be the first time they're not in the big dance since 2020. And a reason why I don't think San Francisco can make it into the NFC playoffs, look at the playoff picture. I only think that one divisional team makes it into the playoffs from the NFC West. Why is that? Because I think 2 teams from the NFC East get in, and I think 3 teams from the NFC North get in. And so the Niners, if the season were to end today, well on the outside looking in, the Cardinals are playing like one of the top teams in football, and I don't think that there's any wiggle room for a team outside of the division winner in the NFC West to get in the playoffs, and the NFC South stinks as well. The Falcons went on the road and got dump trucked, dominated by the Denver Broncos. They got walloped. And so I think the NFC West and the NFC South are teams where you have to win the division in order to get into the playoffs. And the Niners haven't given themselves any breathing room, any wiggle room. And look at this schedule coming up. The Green Bay Packers on the road, difficult place to play. Packers are a really good football team. The Buffalo Bills on the road, another cold climate, tough environment. The Buffalo Bills just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, handing Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid their first loss of the year. You think this Niners defense is going to be able to hold up for 60 minutes against Josh Allen, who right now is the MVP of the league? And keep in mind that Nick Bosa might not be able to play in those 2 road games. You have the feisty Chicago Bears in Week 14. You have the Rams, who you lost to in Week 15. Can this defense hold up against Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Sean McVay? You cross the country to take on the Miami Dolphins on the road. Can the Niners hold up with the Detroit Lions, who seemingly every week are dropping 40 to 50 points? Their defense ain't good enough, the Niners defense. And then you end the season with the difficult game on the road against the Arizona Cardinals. And so when you lose these divisional games and these games in general, in which you are leading with under 2 minutes to go and you squander them, the Niners have dug themselves a hole so deep that there is no margin for error for the rest of the year, and the rest of the year features a very difficult schedule. And a key reason for why the Niners are where they are, their lack of offensive production. This offense has been flat out mediocre here in 2024. And against Seattle, San Francisco put up 277 yards of offense. They had one explosive play of 20-plus yards. It's their fewest yards in a game since they had 215 in Week 6 last year against the Cleveland Browns. Another good defense with a good defensive signal caller. Jim Schwartz then, Mike McDonald yesterday. And it's the fewest yards that the Niners have had in a home game since they put up 259 yards of offense against Miami in Week 5 of 2020. And there was a stark difference between how the Niners offense performed against the Seahawks Thursday Night Football in Week 6 compared to yesterday. The Niners' yards per play on the road against Seattle in Week 6, 7.9. Yesterday, 4.9. San Francisco dropped 36 points against the Seahawks in Week 6. 17 points 5 weeks later in Week 11. 228 rushing yards on the road against the Seahawks. 131 rushing yards yesterday. Mike McDonald, preparing for this Kyle Shanahan offense off the bye for the Seahawks, was a bad recipe for Kyle Shanahan. And remember how this Niners offense looked against the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas last year? Mike McDonald was calling the plays for that Ravens defense, the number 1 overall defense in the NFL last year. That game then looked a lot like that game yesterday, where the Niners could not manage and put together long sustaining drives. They shot themselves in the foot, penalties and a turnover, and they couldn't come through with explosive plays, and they were held in check on the scoreboard. And how about these chat stats here? 125 coaches have had 40-plus regular season games decided by 7 points or fewer. 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan's .396 winning percentage in those games ranks 118th. Kyle Shanahan, ladies and gentlemen, is having the worst year of his coaching career. There have been blown leads. The Niners have not beaten a team with their record above 500 this season. There are penalties. They are not well coached. They are out of whack. They are undisciplined. Their red zone offense, 26th among 32 teams in the NFL. And also, the Niners have so much talent, yet they haven't fulfilled expectations. More chat stats on this Niners offense. San Francisco, through 10 games, they have 23 scrimmage touchdowns. They had 33 through 10 games last year. It is the fewest through 10 games since San Francisco had 23 during the 2018 season. That 2018 season, that was the second year under Kyle Shanahan. There was no Jimmy Garoppolo. That team did not have the talent or the firepower that this 2024 team has. Last year, one of the most high-octane, efficient offenses that we have seen in modern NFL history, and this year, they have been absolutely mediocre. And Kyle Shanahan's game management continues to be an issue. 2 bad challenges yesterday. Not good. And then San Francisco could not ice the game on that final drive. They pick up a first down. They're able to at least put 3 points on the scoreboard or run the clock out. Seahawks don't get the ball back. And then Geno Smith isn't able to engineer that 80-yard drive and take it in with his feet from 13 yards out. And this is an indictment on Kyle Shanahan as well. 1-score games this year versus last year. The Niners have played in 6 one-score games here in 2024. Their record, 2-4. In 2023, they played 4 games decided by 1 score. San Francisco was 1-3. Kyle Shanahan is really struggling in these 1-score games, and elite coaches, they fare well in some of these 1-score games. That's where you make your money. That's where you make your mark as a team, as an offense, as a defense, as a coaching staff, as an organization, and Fred Warner said it best. This isn't how we've played in recent years, but this year it is, so until we change that, this is who we are. Grade Kyle Shanahan's coaching performance this year. A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know down in the comment section right now. It's got to be a C or a D. All this talent and how poorly they've played. A lot more to get to here on the show because this loss continues to get even worse upon the rewatch. But first, today's Niners Report sponsored by our friends at Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars handed out in awarded winnings. It's the best place to get real money sports action. And Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They now offer Venmo for quick and easy deposits. They take their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And right now, when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Just head to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Monday Night Football tonight. Texas in-state rivalry game. Cowboys, Texans. CD Lamb and Tank Dell. Let's go more than a half touchdown combined. You have to imagine one of them will find the end zone. Brandon Aubrey, more than 8.5 fantasy score. So I think the Cowboys are going to rely on him to split the uprights. And then Nico Collins, he's back. More than a half rushing and receiving touchdown. That'll really help out CJ Stroud. Pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. Run your game with Prize Picks. Get $50 when you play 5, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Some really bad injury news coming out of that game for San Francisco. Nick Bosa, hurt. He was already dealing with a hip and oblique injury on his second sack of Geno Smith. He said he overcompensated, and now both of his obliques are injured. It seems like when the Niners are out of the woods in one area, either with its play or with injuries, something else happens. And oftentimes during these Super Bowl hangover types of seasons, everything seems to snowball and go downhill at once. The Niners are dealing with that. They're just dealing with a lot of mental and physical fatigue, and that was one of my concerns for this football team coming into the year. Bosa seems to be concerned, and at this point, I would be very surprised if he plays on the road against the Green Bay Packers. And this Niners defensive line is not deep enough. John Lynch, why didn't you make a trade at the NFL trade deadline? We talked about that here on the show, how San Francisco needed another edge rusher. Niners were silent. They traded for a defensive tackle who hasn't done anything in 2 games since the trade. Bosa on that injury and is concerned with it. Quote, it's definitely there. I don't know. We got to see. Hopefully it's not too long, he said. So he's feeling as though he's going to miss some time. And if Nick Bosa can't play against the Packers, yikes. The Packers go 4 wide receivers deep. They have 2 really good tight ends, a good running game. Their defense has really improved since last year. San Francisco, 1.5-point underdogs on the road at Lambeau Field. It is the first time that they are underdogs since the 2022 NFC title game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And when Nick Bosa went out of the game, the complexion of the game changed, and this Niners defense really struggled. It was a slow burn for this Niners team. With Bosa on the field, the Seahawks mustered 3.3 yards per play. With Bosa off the field, the Niners defense gave up 6.1 yards per play. And the Seahawks scored both of their touchdowns when Nick Bosa was on the sideline. You want to tell me that Nick Bosa's been disappointing since the contract? I disagree. He's been one of the top edge rushers in the game, and sometimes with pass rushers, you can get lazy and casual and just look at the sack totals, look at the pressures, look at his ability to impact the game with getting after the quarterback and stopping the run and the attention that he demands from that defensive end spot. If Nick Bosa can't play against Jordan Love in this Green Bay offense, which is high octane, Niners defense is going to struggle once again, and this Niners defense has struggled all throughout this year. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way, at Chase_Senior. After our watch party and post-game show, I put out even more content because the content doesn't stop and the grind doesn't stop because I want to provide for the faithful at Chase_Senior on both platforms. As for the San Francisco 49ers offense, is this just who they are? Can't sustain drives. When they do move the ball, they shoot themselves in the foot with penalties. They turn the football over, and they also continue to struggle in the red zone. And I've said this year, if the Niners can figure out their red zone problems and score some more points, they can do the defense some favors. They can give themselves and afford themselves a little bit of breathing room because the difference between 3 points and 7 and momentum is drastic. Well, the Niners, even with Christian McCaffrey back, continue to struggle to score touchdowns when in the red area. And yesterday they got inside the red zone, then they committed penalties to push them out of the red area. Last year, red zone touchdown percentage, number 1 in the NFL, 67%. In 2024, it has dropped nearly 20 points to 48.7%. That's 26th in the NFL. Lack of separation is also a problem for San Francisco. They entered Sunday's matchup against the Seahawks, ranked dead last in average separation at the time of the catch at 3 yards, and the teams in front of San Francisco, they're all going to be at the top of the NFL draft. The Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants, and the Dallas Cowboys, 4 of the worst teams in the NFL. Last year, the Niners ranked 13th in this category. They have dropped to 32nd, and that has resulted in more tight window throws and more stress on Brock Purdy. And I think that Brock Purdy has had a little bit of regression because of that. Kyle Shanahan has had a bad year designing and calling plays. The Niners don't really change their offensive line protections at the line of scrimmage. Brock Purdy isn't given the leeway to audible and change the play oftentimes at the line of scrimmage. He's had to deal with a lot of players in and out of the lineup, some players not playing in general. We've seen regression from players like Deebo Samuel, and the tight window throws, they've put stress on Brock Purdy to try to put that football into a tight window, and it's resulted in incompletions, non-easy throws throughout the course of the game. That stacks up, and of course, when it accumulates, that can also result in turnovers as well. And how about this? Brock Purdy's passer rating. His first 22 starts in the NFL, it was 118. His last 15 starts, including the playoffs, 91.5. Has the NFL started to figure out Brock Purdy a little bit? His lowest yards per attempt in a start throughout his career. Last year, against the Browns, 4.6, when the Niners had barely over 200 yards of total offense. 5.7 against the Seahawks on Sunday, and 5.8 against the Eagles in the 2022 NFC title game when he injured his elbow very early in that ball game. So my closing thoughts here. The 49ers are an average team. They are what their record says they are at 5-5. They are a flawed team. And yesterday was a colossal failure at every level of this organization. They're not deep enough on the defensive side of the football. They're not executing well enough on the offensive side of the football. Coaching has taken a step back as far as the defensive coordinator. Kyle Shanahan has taken a step back as far as play calling, play designs, efficiency, red zone, discipline, explosive plays, yards of separation. Brock Purdy hasn't been the same guy. Deebo Samuel hasn't been the same guy. Yesterday, they really missed George Kittle. They don't have a viable backup tight end. Again, the roster construction, that is on the front office. And so when it comes to coaching, when it comes to talent, when it comes to the front office and building this football team, yesterday, it was a colossal failure at every level of the organization. Offense, defense, special teams once again bad. Roster building, coaching, player execution, just not there. And that's why I don't see how San Francisco gets it together to make the playoffs, because we are now going in to Week 12. Week 12! And the same issues continue to happen every single week. So will the Niners make the playoffs? M for make, W for won't make? I'm saying they will not.